Hello and welcome to Gazette discussion for 22nd June 2021. My name is Harit and today we will cover many interesting and latest articles in news. Today onwards, we will be distinguishing between two kinds of articles. The first is the featured news and the rest of the articles together. Hence, the video on YouTube will be in two segments. One will be for featured news separately and the other one which will contain all the rest of the articles. The first article for today is the featured news. The featured news is a news from Sri Lankan coast where a ship sank and this ship was carrying hazardous substances. Hence, there was a lot of marine pollution because of it. Therefore, in this article, what we will cover is what is the relation between marine trade and pollution? What are the impacts of it and how can it be resolved? The second article that we have this day in history is about Charon, that is Pluto's moon, and the phenomenon of double tidal interlocking. News snapshot. The three important update articles that we have for you today are a special report on drought by United Nations Office for Disaster Risk Reduction. The second one is an e-commerce policy by Ministry of Commerce, very important for players like Amazon and Flipkart. The third article is related to World Investment Report released by UNCTAD, United Nations Conference on Trade and Development. This is important for Asia and India in specific. The terms and concepts that we discussed today are NISHTHA. Now, this is an initiative to train the teachers started by NCERT and in organization with the Edukemy model residential schools. Summer solstice, 22nd June. Now, this was the date when summer solstice happened. So, we will discuss what is this phenomenon. Black softshell turtle in news in Northeast Assam. And Section 27A of NDPS Act. NDPS stands for Narcotics, Drugs and Psychotropic Substance Act. Some lacunae in this act which has been found lately. The two interesting and important editorials that we have covered today are: one, understanding Pakistan's Kashmir conundrum, confusion, the Kashmir confusion with Pakistan. Important article for us. And the second, again very important, is about the federal structure, especially related to the fiscal division. The case study for the day is about recycling of e-waste. A beautiful article and an inspirational one. So let's start the discussion. This day in history is an important day for the planet Pluto because this was the day when one of its important satellites called as Charon was discovered, 22 June 1978. Pluto itself was discovered as a planet in the solar system in 1930s. Now, this planet is the most important planet for Pluto because this system of planet and its satellite is called as double planetary system. There is a similarity in the shape, the amount of weight that both of these planet and the satellite have, and something called as mutual tidal locking. What is mutual tidal locking? It means that the planet rotates and the satellite also rotates. But they rotate in a way that one place on Pluto and one particular place on Charon, they are always in front of each other. Always in front of each other. So, a person standing at this place will not be able to see the opposite side of Charon, right? This is very similar to what happens between Earth and Moon. Earth and Moon also have got a similar sort of mechanism. So, this is important. Charon planet and mutual tidal interlocking. So, why is it called as tidal locking? It is called as tidal locking because there is an effect of the planet also on tides, right? The attraction between the moon and the earth. The moon and earth attraction leads to tides at places. So, only a particular place on moon and particular place on earth, they are facing each other at the time. So, there is an interlocking while the tide happens, right? Interlocking of the places as well. Okay. The first article, the first snapshot update important article for today is about a special report on drought which is released by United Nations UN Disaster Risk Reduction, right? UN Office for Disaster Risk Reduction. This global assessment report talks about the increased drought which leads to desertification and stress in the areas. This has also got a study on India as well, right? Now, this says that drought is not about scarcity of water or aridity, because there are places which are arid, which are dry, and they are water scarce. However, if the hydrological balance at that place is disturbed, that leads to drought, right? This has got human implications also. See, humans have naturally managed to live in the amount of water that region has. However, if there is decrease in rain, if there is some climate change impact, now these are the causes which result in the change of hydrological balance, right? For example, atmospheric conditions, right, they change in the local area, or there is climate change. These are the important issues which cause this hydrological balance change, right? This has impacted as many as 1.5 billion people worldwide, right? Directly impacted these many people. The drought, this is what the article says. The impact is so much that, for example, see, if it impacts the agriculture at a place, if it impacts the production, for example, the growth of agriculture, will it impact the industry sector? Yes, it will. People will not be able to purchase tractors. People will not be able to afford the feeders, for example, fertilizer, seeds. How will they be able to afford? Services, does it impact services? Yes, it does. Because these farmers, their children also study. So will they be able to afford proper education, their health services? How about their savings? This will impact the whole service economy as well. So there are forward and backward linkages of this as well. The impact is multitude, okay? And that is how it says that this is India specific, right? It says that there is an increase, there will be an impact of 2 to 5% on India's GDP because of increase in drought, right? Now, there was a study carried out in Deccan areas on this, and the study says that Deccan areas are the most impacted because of this drought, right? The highest frequency, 6%, is happening in Deccan areas, to the level that there are villages in Karnataka and in Maharashtra, example Beed. Now people have started to move out of the villages. They have started to migrate. The complete village has relocated. The people have relocated themselves to save themselves from these turmoils, right? It says that significant drought conditions are happening in India once in every 3 years. Important to note, right? So how can we manage this? Key recommendation of it is that prevention is far more better than a reaction or a response. So how can we prevent droughts? Yesterday we discussed an important case study of the waterman, the water fighter from the Vidarbha region in Maharashtra, Apte. So these examples can be put here, right? So keep watching the videos and keep noting down so that you are able to understand what we talk of. Prevention is better than cure. How do we prevent? By rejuvenating the water bodies, by planting trees. Yesterday we also studied about the green blue belt, right? In Delhi's 2041 draft plan. So green blue belt, right? Rejuvenation of traditional water bodies. This is the prevention. Second one is, we must understand that this drought has got a cascading nature. That means it will also impact industrial sector, service sector, humans, ecosystem, right? Plants, and so on and so forth. And therefore we must take care of some root causes and some issues which must be tackled. For example, financial system. If during drought years proper financial remunerations are given to the farmers, the impact can be mitigated. So this is what the article is about. Note down the important keywords. For example, drought is about the hydrological condition. It is not only specific to aridity or water scarcity, right? Specific to India are the 2 to 5% per annum, right? Decrease in GDP, right? Deccan area, important example. How can it be prevented? Now, if you note this down, and if you note down, it was a report by United Nations DRR, United Nations Office for DRR. This will impact positively in how much you score in the question related to drought. The second article, snapshot article for today, is draft e-commerce policy norms. This is very interesting article impacting all of us because many of us make purchases online now. In this stay-at-home economy, online purchases, e-commerce have taken more wings as compared to going to shops and purchase their items, right? Mall tendency, going to malls and purchases have gotten reduced. Online purchases have increased. So this is where the Ministry of Commerce has said that there will be new particular norms for the e-commerce websites, for example, Amazon, Flipkart, etc. Right? What they have said is that they want free and fair competition. Right? First thing is they want free and fair competition between the players in online business. And second one is that they want to protect the interest of consumers. We will see how they protect the interest of consumers. Firstly, what they want is that there must be a compliance officer. There must be compliance officers in the organization who can coordinate with the government, and there must be an effective grievance redressal mechanism as well for helping people. Okay, this is one of the major demands of the government with the websites. Second, to make the registration possible with the government. Right now, these organizations, these bodies, these websites are registered, but to make it more effective, to make it verifiable, they have to be registered effectively with the government, right? Now, some very important updates that have come that will also impact us is that the government has said no preference has to be given to any particular organization while the online transaction is made. For example, if Amazon says that this is the preferred seller on Amazon, see, Amazon is an organization which will link a lot of sellers and buyers, right? So it has got a list of sellers, right? If Amazon starts to prefer a particular seller, people will buy from them. They will not be putting the names of other competitors also. So this preference should not be given. There should be level playing field. There should not be a reduction in competition. This is what the government has said, demanded from them. No differential treatment to the sellers. Then if Amazon is related to an entity X, right? Now this entity will not be listed as a seller in the website. Why? Because if they are related also, and this entity X is registered on the website, it will lead to conflict of interest. Amazon is only linking these two, right? But if Amazon has got interest in X company or X individual, then there will be conflict of interest. So related parties will not be allowed to list themselves. Selling to vendor prohibited. Now, if there is a vendor Y, if Amazon has itself started selling to vendor Y, and this vendor Y is selling to people, again a conflict of interest. So these are very simple things, although they have been happening, and this is why the government has put these norms, right? How will they help people? They will help people. Why? Because right now, bigger companies like Amazon, Flipkart, they have very much predatory policies. One of the predatory policies is giving flash sales. Government has also put norms regarding that. Now, flash sales will be avoided. They will not be eliminated, but repeated flash sales will be avoided. This is what the government has said. Why? Because this will increase competition between all the others as well. If the companies like Amazon and Flipkart, they get into repeated sales, flash sales, there'll be more attraction to these companies, and the smaller players will go haywire. They will be out of competition. But once they gain monopoly, this will be against the spirit of competition. This will be against the consumers' growth. So that is why this is in the interest of consumers that the government has given these particular instructions to the companies. So note down what is required, right? First of all, interest of consumers and spirit of competition, they have to be preserved. In lieu of that, compliance officer, registration, right? No mis-selling. The websites have to declare best before what date. And very important, to encourage Atmanirbhar Bharat, the government has also said that the country of origin also has to be put. Now this is very important. The product will have a country of origin, whether it was manufactured in China, Indonesia or India, right? So people can prefer their product. To increase the spirit of competition, there will be related products also mentioned, right? Instead of preferring a particular product, the website has to mention that if I am purchasing a mixer, it is of Bajaj also available, and it is also available from Havells, right? So this has to be mentioned in the website. This is what is the update about. The third snapshot, and very important for us, is the World Investment Report by UNCTAD, right? This organization has said that there are very few countries in the world during the time of Corona which have increased the level of FDI inflows. India, China are among those. This is what the article says, right? Now, there is a reason for why the inflow has increased in India, right? Now, it says countries like India have had digital boom, right? There is more demand in the internal economy itself. Now, countries in Asia also have faced the setback. For example, Pakistan, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka. Now, Bangladesh is an export-oriented economy. India has export, but India consumes as well. And now in this time of digital transformation, India is consuming a lot through digital means. And that is why FDI's inflows have increased to increase the digital component of the economy. However, Pakistan, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, all the FDIs here have dipped. In fact, in the Western world, in the advanced world, the dip is so much that countries like Europe and USA have seen a major dip. Europe has seen dip of FDI as much as 80% in 2020 and USA 40%. Now, this is the image which talks about the FDI inflows, right? This is the green line shows developed economies. See the way the FDI has dipped, and this is the FDI inflow in the emerging economies, right? Here, India, China, and countries like Hong Kong have prospered because Hong Kong special destination for financial world from where finance is routed to other places. China because of its technological ahead, e-commerce, research and development, and India because of IT industry, because of digital transformation of the whole IT sector. So very important article and very good for India, right? This is what the article mentions. Some statistics like India's FDI has increased to 27%, China around 6%. But see, the percentage has increased, but the effective increase is not as much as compared to China, because China's economy is very huge in itself, right? So this is what the article is about. The article also says that there is a difference between FDI and FII, right? FII is very volatile. Foreign investment comes to India and then it can be taken out immediately. But FDI is participation in involvement of the business, direct participation. So it not only brings in money, but will also bring technology, knowledge and skills, right? So there will be a share of the company with the foreign holder as well, FDI. Image of the day, important, good image. This is about a motivating act which was done in Rajasthan. 100 women from 33 villages, they planted around 5,100 saplings at one go, right? Now this helps against desertification, a campaign against desertification called as Harit, Marubhumi, Marusthal means Rajasthan, and Harit, to make this place green, to improve the level of the land rejuvenation, decrease desertification. This was done. The idea was initiated by a person who got the Land for Life award by UN, Shyam Sundar Jnani, right? So he introduced the concept of family consciousness. The trees must be taken care just like we take care of our family, right? So this is the news. Terms and concept. First term and concept in news is NISHTHA. What is NISHTHA? NISHTHA is the capacity building program for teachers and the school heads, right? So this is called as National Initiative for School Head and Teacher Holistic Advancement Program, right? The students have to be trained, but teachers have to be trained before students have to be trained, so that they can train better students, right? So what is the idea? The idea is to develop critical thinking, right? Handling diverse situations, and for the teachers to become first level counselors. Apart from parents, teachers are the counselors. So this is the main idea behind this scheme, and this was introduced under Samagra Shiksha Abhiyan. Samagra means everyone's, the teaching for education for everybody. So right now it is in news because these Eklavya model residential schools and NCRT have come together to train the teachers for these schools, right? So this is what is it in news. The next, so NISHTHA, please remember NISHTHA. Summer solstice. Now the summer solstice is the time when the apparent movement of sun happens towards the Tropic of Cancer. When this movement happens, the longest day and shortest night is seen in the northern hemisphere, especially at 23.5 degrees. This is also the time when sun never sets in the Arctic areas. Similar to this and just opposite to this is called as the winter solstice. This is the time when we see the smallest day and the longest night in the northern hemisphere, and exactly opposite in southern hemisphere. Why are we discussing this today? Because June 21 was the day when this summer solstice happened in northern hemisphere, right? Black's softshell turtle. Now this turtle is important because it is found in northeast area and it is critically endangered. So it must raise your ears here. Kaan khade ho jane chahiye. Why? Because these are critically endangered and there is a specific way they are preserved, right? Ahom kings, in the Ahom traditions, Assamese traditions, these turtles were preserved by keeping them, by donating them to temples, right? So people would make these donations to temples. However, there would be increase in the number of these turtles in the ponds at the temples, and therefore they have to be sent back to the jungles and the aquatic areas. So this is why it is in news, because the temple administration has started to give these turtles away so that they can grow in the wild as well, right? Now these turtles have been declared extinct in wild. Extinct in wild. This is where I bring yourself to the IUCN red list category, right? So extinct in wild and extinct, that means they're not found in wild, they're only protected. So this is critically endangered, extinct in wild, endangered, vulnerable, this is least concerned, this is not threatened, and this is This is somewhere in between vulnerable and threatened. So here right now we see that these are critically endangered and extinct and wild. Now if we increase the population of these turtles, now then they will be put in the critically endangered category, right? Okay. So this is why these turtles have been in use. These are freshwater turtles found in Brahmaputra and the territories, the tributaries nearby, right? Section 27A of NDPS Act 1985. What is NDPS Act? NDPS Act is the one which talks about narcotics, drugs, psychotropic substances, and how the penalization if people use this has to be done. This is the act about. Now why this is in news is because the court in Tripura found out there is a lacuna in this act. The shortcoming, the loophole in this act is attributed to an amendment that was done in 2014. Now see, these psychotropic substances, right, the narcotics and drugs, these are also used for recreation purposes, right? People take them and this is an offense. However, the morphine, the substances like morphine, they also have medical applications. They can reduce the amount of pain in an individual. So they have medical application as well. There was changes made in this act in 2014. The changes related to introducing this to the medical sector. For example, interstate movement of these kind of drugs, it got easier. For example, they have to be moved from one hospital to another hospital. So the provisions were so strict that movement was very restricted, and therefore 2014 there were changes made in section 27A of this act. Now these changes were made in a way that by mistake the penal provision was not accounted for. There was a penal provision in 27A, however there was a lacuna because of which people could go away with, and a person was caught in Tripura and they were jailed for this. However, the lawyer found out this important loophole. So the government says to the court that please read, the court should read in the spirit of the law. The spirit of the law is the same, that penalty must be provided. However, the court said that since there is nothing mentioned in the law, you will have to make an amendment in the act. Amendment will be made in the act, but what about the person who has already been penalized, right? The person will have to be released. Why? Because this is a criminal offense, and criminal offense cannot be taken retrospective in nature, right? If there was no act previously, condemning the person or giving them some penalty, in case of criminal act, retrospective amendment will not hamper that person. Right now, if the amendment is made only after 2027, 2021, all the penal actions under 27A will be treated as penalty in criminal offenses. So this is what the article is about, and that's why in news. Editorials of the day. Two important editorials are one on Pakistan's Kashmir and Kashmir issue, conundrum, that means confusion, and the second one is on fiscal reforms in case of the federal relations between center and state. So the first article, before we get on to it, I would like to show you a map. This map is of Jammu, Kashmir and Ladakh region, right? Now, why do I show this map to you right now? You should see this was the Kashmir before 2019, right? So Jammu area, Srinagar and Kashmir. Now this is the territory of Jammu Kashmir. This was the Ladakh area, right? This is Siachen, and this is line of actual control, right? So what we have is this part with ourselves. This belongs to China. This right now is Pakistan occupied Kashmir, and this area is what belongs to us. The government went on with the state reorganization and it introduced two union territories, right? Jammu and Kashmir and Ladakh, and this was the renewed territory. So this was the Ladakh portion and this is the Jammu Kashmir portion, which also has the LOC, right? So this is the new changes. Now Kashmir changes have irked Pakistan. They have disturbed Pakistan. Earlier Pakistan was in the controlling position. Why? Because it would conduct terror attacks. In the last 30 years, since 1990s, there have been a lot of terror attacks and infiltration. However, there have been a huge change in stand from India's perspective. Now India retaliated to Uri, India retaliated to Pulwama terror attacks, and therefore we also see after that the changes, abrogation of Article 370. So Pakistan has become very uncertain about India's act, and this has worked in India's favor. They also tried to have a United Nations Security Council resolution against India, but it was stopped by India. So back channel diplomacy also got initiated. This is what article says. right? Back channel diplomacy relates to informal discussions between high officials of both the countries, right? So because of the back channel diplomacy, there was ceasefire agreement between these two countries, right? And Pakistan started to talk of geo-economics with India and Afghanistan, increasing trade relations, betterment of people. However, they countered themselves. This is what the article says. How? Because they themselves stopped some import of trade from India, agricultural produce, right? So the core issue that India has is terrorism. India wants to talk on terrorism. However, Pakistan's core issue with India is Kashmir. So both the countries have readied themselves to talk on the core issues now. Both of them will talk on these two parameters, right? So the article says that it is good to be realist. India is not going to reverse these changes, right? The realism here is to help the people of the local area, that is Jammu and Kashmir, and to discuss the core real issues. So this is the article, important, interesting article. The second article is on fiscal relations between federal, the central government and the state government. Now, India could only form a union and not a federal like America because of the situations in 1940s, 1950s and 60s. The way Goa was annexed, the way Junagadh was taken back, the way different territories like Kashmir was taken, and therefore now the drag is such that the fiscal relations are such that center collects majority of the taxes, right? The article says that the direct taxes are collected by the center and then redistributed to states. 41% of such taxes are collected and redistributed to states. 41% of the center of the net of the gross tax collected, right? Tax revenue. So states are dependent. As much as 50% of the states collection is dependent on the center as well, right? The poorer states. So this is what it says. And then there is politics. Why? Because center at times give more share to a particular state and less share to another particular state, right? This is what the article says. The article says that there's a distinction between the northern and southern states also. For example, the southern states, they account for lesser population growth, yet they receive lesser share. The states like Bihar, who account for less revenue collection, there the tax distribution is high. The article also says that there are states where the revenue collection is very high. For example, five important states, including the industrial states of Gujarat, Tamil Nadu, Maharashtra, Delhi, Karnataka. These 5 states account for 72% of the tax collection, right? So, however, the UP accounts for only 3% of such tax collection. However, it receives a majority, 17% of the tax revenues. So, the disparity between the states which are industrial and a state which has population. Now, the tax distribution happens in certain ways. For example, this cross subsidy between the states given by center is dependent on some criteria. For example, income distance. So, average income earned per person per state, right? So, if income distance is more, if UP and Bihar are poorer, they will be given more money, right? Then there is population. If there is more population, they will be given different resources. Fiscal discipline. If they are able to maintain the fiscal discipline, less fiscal deficit is there, they'll get more money. The area that they have, infrastructure and tax norms. So these are the criteria which are covered on the basis of which the center gives taxation to tax distribution to various states. And sadly, income distance is a heavy parameter. So this is how cross subsidy happens. The article says that countries like Pakistan, Sri Lanka, Yugoslavia, they got this issue. For example, northern and eastern Sri Lanka, Pakistan, East Pakistan, West Pakistan, and the disintegration of Yugoslavia happened because of issues like this. Because fiscal autonomy was not there, because revenue collected from one place was transported to another place. India must avoid these kind of things so that India could focus on more important external sector issues. So this is what the article is about. Case study of the day. This case study is about e-waste management, right? So this person called as Mukund BS, young man, he started this e-waste management. How did he do this? Now, instead, this is the age of technology, and we all wait for purchasing the next phone, the next gadget, right? The next computer that we have. So we are all slaves of technology, and therefore it generates a lot of e-waste. Now, Mukund saw this, and he found out through his own research and work that purchasing a computer from a company, second-hand computer, could take as much as 6 months. But But if those scrap computers are taken and rebuilt again, they are worked on, rebuilt, it takes only 2 to 3 weeks to rebuild. And through this initiative, through his organization, he has sold as many as 10,000 such computers from scrap. Yeah. So this is a very innovative case study of e-waste management, right? This also talks about improving the circular economy, right? Circular economy where there is no waste. I saw an ad recently. It said a child tells his mother, "Mummy, there is somebody at the door." She says, "Go and look who is there." So the child says, "Kachre wala hai." The lady says, "Nahi beta, he is not kachre wala. Kachre wale to hum hai. We are the ones who create kachra. वो तो सफाई वाला है." So circular economy is the one which talks about no waste generation, right? There should not be any waste. There should be management of waste, and there should be the complete cycle of waste should lead to creation of another product, right? So quickly, let us look at the kind of waste generated: municipal solid waste, hazardous waste, and then we have industrial waste and agricultural waste, right? And these are the three important concepts, 3 R's. Remember these, right? So municipal waste is the regular waste, kitchen waste and packaging, etc. Hazardous waste, for example, chemicals, toxic, nuclear, etc. Industrial waste, right? The ones which are run off the industries in the water bodies, fertilizer, pesticide, husk, stubble. These are all waste and they have to be handled. So we have biomedical waste also, right? Now we have had articles in the Gazette on biomedical waste as well, and we will cover them in future again, right? So this is what the article is about. Now, so we covered all the important major articles today, and I would like you to note down the important keywords, important terms, so that you remember them while you revise them, right? So thank you for watching.